Wow, this has truly been an interesting day. And all the while I was riding the bus home, I was trying to wrap my little brain around this odd predicament I find myself in. I didn't realize that people were so sensitive. I had a video called Yes, I Think Religious Delusion and Schizophrenia are very similar. And somebody wrote me and said, oh, I'm schizophrenic. And I find just your title just be so offensive. Wow. You know, there's two things that I know how I feel when it comes to schizophrenia. Because, you know, first of all, I don't think you have to have schizophrenia to be able to discuss this illness. I don't think you need to have schizophrenia to know something about this illness. I am speaking as somebody whose life was turned upside down by schizophrenia. I'm not a sufferer of the illness, no, but I have some experience dealing with somebody who is. So I think that gives me, I think I have earned the right to have an opinion when it comes to this illness. I don't think that you have to have schizophrenia to have a valid opinion about schizophrenia. And I don't think that it's fair for certain people on YouTube to think that they are the whatever authority on this subject and that nobody else has a valid opinion. That said, I don't really see what was offensive about what I am indicating here. Schizophrenia causes distorted thinking. So does the most mild forms of mental illness cause distorted thinking. I used schizophrenia as an example in my video because the best example that I have to show my point is my mom, and my mom has schizophrenia. But because I invoke my mother in that video, somebody I don't even know, I've never heard of before, I've never talked to on YouTube, that I've, for some strange reason, she thinks she can post a video blasting me for having mommy issues. I have mommy issues. Let's just say that my mother has caused for me a great deal of harm, and it's taking me most of my life to crawl out of the pit of hell that my mother put me in. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there, and it's been incredibly good for me to actually start to have a self-esteem, to actually look at myself in the mirror and not see somebody that's a failure and a disappointment, which is what I was brought up to see myself as, because that's what my mother led me to think I was. Do I have mommy issues? Yeah, I do. But the story about my childhood and what my mother put me through has absolutely nothing to do with this video. And any emotions or feelings that I have in me about that has absolutely nothing to do with this video. I am using my mom as an example of somebody who has distorted thinking, and comparing this kind of distorted thinking with the kind of distorted thinking that is created by religious indoctrination. Now, how is that offensive to somebody who has schizophrenia? I really would like to know. Does a schizophrenic person, is the claim here that they don't have distorted thinking? Is that what they're trying to say? Because that's absurd. I have depression, which is a much milder form of mental illness, and I readily admit that I suffer from distorted thinking. I'm on meds, and I have to be on guard against thought patterns that have controlled my whole life, that have done nothing but harm to me in my adulthood. Maybe when I was a kid, they were survival tactics, but now as an adult, they cause me and have caused me detrimental harm. So I'm on guard against distorted thinking. Distorted thinking took away some dear friendships of mine. It's really bad what distorted thinking can do to your life. You can become your own worst enemy by not having clear sight of the world around you. And the best thing that happened to me was becoming aware of the fact that I could not even trust my own thoughts. That my own thoughts were what were the triggers causing my depression. That letting things recycle in my head over and over and over. If you go back and watch my videos, you can see it for yourself. I have recycling over and over videos about the bartender and videos about the guy who lived with me and pretended to be my friend. Because it was distorted thinking that I wasn't letting those things go and that I was continuing to regurgitate those feelings and those thoughts, and it was just causing me nothing but misery. So yeah, I kind of have a problem with distorted thinking. When I see it in other people, which I do. I see it in people I see it in myself. I see it in other people who let a book control their whole life because they so believe that this book is the final authority. And it's just a book. I see that as distorted thinking. I don't see how distorted thinking can be a good thing. A schizophrenic cannot help being ill any more than a depressed person can help being ill. Having seen what damage schizophrenia did to my mom, I have nothing but the utmost sympathy for people with this illness. I see schizophrenia as life-damaging and life-destroying as the worst illnesses out there, like cancer or heart disease. I have put up videos trying to increase people's awareness of mental illness because of the stigma that exists about mental illness. And how horrible it is to have people look at you differently once they find out you have mental illness, or treat you like you're weak just because you have a mental illness, or like there's something wrong with you, or like you deserve you deserve it, or whatever. You don't get treated like any other person who's ill when you have a mental illness. Mental illness, for some reason or other, it's regarded differently. What I do know from my mother, and again, I'm only dealing with one person who's had this illness, and the people that I've talked to who've worked with my mother. So I could be wrong about this, but everybody I have talked to about schizophrenia has told me that somebody who is truly mentally ill to that degree, they don't know they are. They think everybody else is crazy and they're the normal ones. When my mom went to Overlake Hospital, I was there for she was there about 3 months as a ward. She is a ward at the state. She said to me many times, I'm the only one here that isn't crazy. people who are mentally ill to that extent don't know they are. So I don't know about these people who've sent me notes and said, well, I have schizophrenia and I'm really upset about what you said. I can see somebody who has depression understanding they have depression, because depression is a chemical imbalance in your body that messes with your ability, with your brain's ability to function correctly and control your emotions and control your thoughts. If you have bad thought habits like I do, distorted thinking, filters that cause distorted thinking. If you have depression, there's nothing to control. The chemical imbalance makes it impossible for you, or very hard for you, to control your feelings and your thoughts. But you're still able to understand. You can go to the doctor and have tests, and they'll tell you you have depression. This is what depression causes. This is what you need to do. And you can understand. You can walk home from the doctor and know that you have depression. But the kind of mental illness that is schizophrenia is not the same as a chemical imbalance. That's schizophrenia, from what I understand of it, is somebody who has, and I don't want to say this because it's going to be one more thing to piss off everybody. It's not something you can fix with medication. And a schizophrenic person is not somebody you can say, you have schizophrenia. They're going to look at you and say, you're fucking out of your mind. There is nothing wrong with me. Or maybe you can finally get them to understand that they have something wrong with them, but the next day they're not going to believe it again. I have tried for 8 years to get my mom to understand that her world isn't real. Actually, that's not true. I gave up. After maybe 3 years ago, I finally just started playing along with her delusions. And I don't argue with her anymore. Everything she says, it comes out of her mouth. I act interested. I act curious to know the details. I don't ever make a face that will show her that I find it odd or hard to believe. I have to watch my facial expressions around my mother, because even though she's ill, she's always been super smart. And she's not stupid. I mean, she picks up on tone of voice and facial expressions, and if she thinks you don't believe her, she goes off the deep end. She's so mad. So I've had to learn how to not upset my mom. But for the first 5 years or so, when we were, a big chunk of that time, we didn't know what was wrong with her. For a while, we thought she had dementia. I was trying to talk her out of her delusions. I was trying to tell her, Mom, that's not true. And this is the part of your story, Mom, that doesn't make any sense. It was impossible. You cannot tell a person who has schizophrenia that they are wrong about how they see the world. They truly believe that their perceptions are 100% accurate. And I am having a really hard time sitting here believing that these people that have written me saying that they have schizophrenia actually do have schizophrenia, because they're telling me I have schizophrenia. How can you have schizophrenia and actually know that you do? I don't know. Maybe it's different with my mom. My mom, she's had it all her life, but for some reason she was able to hide it until she had colon surgery in her early 80s. She had cancer, and she had a tumor removed, and they did chemotherapy on her, and it caused her to get very sick. And it was shortly after, like, her third or fourth treatment of chemo that she started acting very strange, and basically went into a very steep downward spiral, very fast deterioration. And it was heartbreaking to watch the strong woman that I have tried my whole life to bond to. And I always hoped that there would be a time that I would bond with her, that I would get to know my mother, that she would look at me and be proud of me. Watch this woman that I always looked up to as somebody strong that I wanted to be like, completely unravel It was heartbreaking for me. And now this person that I see when I go visit is a completely different person. I don't know if this person I'm seeing now, that she's on meds, and she greets me with a smile, and she's nice, and she's friendly, and she's not abusive verbally. It's like, is this the real person that my mom is? Is it, I finally now in her 80s, I can see her for who she really is? Or is this just a drugged up version? Have I ever really known who she really is? Have I ever really known her? It's a really touchy subject, my mother. It really breaks my heart because I'm adopted. My dad died when I was 6. My mom is my only parent I've ever had, and I loved her. I tried my whole life to get her to love me. And so when somebody who doesn't know me, I've never said anything mean to this person, I have never gone to her channel and picked on her or criticized her, out of the blue, puts up a video attacking me for having mommy issues. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit uncalled for and mean and cruel. I don't quite understand. I'm now accused of not sitting there watching her own video, her whole video. Well, Diane, you stopped watching her. You should have watched her whole video. Why would I want to watch a video that's about my mother, from somebody who doesn't even know my story, doesn't know what I went through, doesn't know what I got to deal with my mom when I was going through divorce to my husband. I needed my mother like I have never needed my mother before. And what was she doing at that time? She was losing her mind right in front of me. She was slipping away right in front of me. Do you think that was hard? Do you think that it was very, very hard? Dealing with my mother is very, very hard. Mother's Days are excruciating for me. This is all stuff that brings back things from my childhood that are very, very hard. Yes, I think I have earned the right to have an opinion about the fucking illness that took my mother from me, that destroyed any chances of me bonding with her. All the way back. I mean, all this time growing up thinking that my mother, who was my only parent, was right when she said the things she said about me. Growing up thinking that I was nothing but a bad person and a disappointment to her. Having this incredibly low opinion of myself. Seeing myself as garbage. Seeing myself as somebody who has to work really, really fucking hard to have any value to anybody. I wanted to love my mom. I tried a really long time to just love my mom, to just be allowed to love her. This wasn't going to be about my mom. My point is, I have had schizophrenia affect me for my whole life. I have had the effects of distorted thinking affect me my whole life. I look at people who have distorted thinking and I feel badly for them, and I want to speak up against it. I want to say, this is not a good thing. It might seem harmless, but looking at the world through filters, looking at the world through imaginary things, and judging your whole world based on imaginary things isn't good. The schizophrenic person has they can't control. Maybe if they're on the right meds. My mother, I was going to say, my mom's in her 80s. She didn't get on meds until her 80s. Maybe maybe a younger person is able to control the illness enough to recognize the fact that they do have schizophrenia. I don't know. But my mother didn't get treated until her 80s. There's no talking to her. I can't tell her she's ill. She has no understanding for what has happened to her. She has lost every friend she had. She has lost her home. She has lost all her property. She has lost her right to vote. She has lost her identity. She has lost her... She prided herself in her ability to raise 2 children by herself. She prided herself in keeping a roof over our heads and clothing on our backs and supporting us. She prided herself in the fact she never needed welfare. She never needed assistance. She was a strong, independent woman with schizophrenia. And now she's lost everything. She's lost her whole identity. She's lost everything. She's lost herself. And she doesn't know why. I saw her at Christmas and she was crying to me and saying to me, things will never be the same again, will they? I've watched my mother crying because she truly believes that her mom and dad are having a divorce. My mom is ripped apart by the fact that her parents are going through a divorce. She's crying about stuff like that. Her parents have been dead for over 30 years. But she thinks they're alive and that they're going through a divorce, and it hurts her. I don't think it's nice to put videos up about people you don't know and make mean, snide little comments about people you don't know. I think it's a valid observation that I put up, that I see similarities between different types of distorted thinking. I don't think I said anything insulting to people who have schizophrenia. What did I say that's insulting about schizophrenia? I would never knowingly insult anybody with that dreaded disease. It's a horrible disease. It's destroyed my mother. I would never have anything but sympathy and compassion for somebody with schizophrenia. But I'm sorry, it is a valid observation that schizophrenic patients have distorted thinking. It is a valid observation that religious indoctrination causes distorted thinking. It is a valid observation based on my life experiences that distorted thinking can ruin people's lives. And I put a video up because I felt very strongly about it. And I'm not sorry, and I'm not apologizing for it. I think some people are just a little too touchy-feely or looking for reasons to be offended. Grow a nut. This is my last video on this subject. I don't really give a rat's ass. If people want to make nasty little videos about me and call me cunt or whatever, and act like little children, and yes, silly me, I actually did think that atheists would show support to other atheists. I do. But then again, when I was growing up, I didn't get to make friends like other people. I didn't get to learn how to have social skills until I was an adult. So I'm still learning about how the adult world works, and I'm finding out that it is just like the playground. It's just like adults never really grow up, do they? So that's it. I'm done ranting. I'm done with this subject. I'm not going to discuss it anymore. People can do whatever they want. I am not posting any more comments about it. I'm fucking done with it. And go on and do whatever you want. But I'm not reading any comments from people except people that I know. And that's it. Because this is a very upsetting thing for me. I've been working very hard to crawl out of it, and I'm not going to let this shit pull me back down. So thank you for watching if you have. Bye.